Heyo, and what is up, gang? Thank you for checking out Sledgehammer TV tonight. The WWE ended 2019 with a dud last Monday, with one of the worst episodes we've seen of Monday Night Raw of the entire decade. And now we are kicking off 2020 with their first offering being SmackDown tonight, and they brought some big names back. We had 3 huge returns on SmackDown, and it did absolutely nothing to make the show any better at all. There were a couple of things that I didn't mind that happened tonight, but for the most part, this show is traditional WWE trash. We are going to be in for a hell of a long next decade, if tonight's show is any indication of it, and we are going to talk about it right here and right now. My name is Nick Nightmare, and you are watching the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show's SmackDown Review and Reaction Show. Let's do it.
Sledgehammer Wrestling Show.
If you watch tonight's show, there has to be not any doubt in your mind that this was without a doubt a Vince McMahon production. Written, produced, directed, and thankfully it wasn't starring, but maybe that's the best thing about it, is that at least we didn't have to see this old crazy bastard who's just ruining wrestling with the way he is writing this show week after week after week. A lot of the proof that I have for you to tell you that Vince McMahon was in charge, as if you didn't already know. What did we have on tonight's episode of SmackDown? We had a lot of bullying going on. And I know traditionally a heel is somewhat of a bully, so you're going to get that in certain situations. But why do we have to be childish? Why do we have to write this show like we are scripting a playground rumble? Right? We had short jokes, of course, because Chad Gable was on the show, and we have to get our little short jokes in for the little people because Vince McMahon don't know how to write anything else aside from this shit. We had fat shaming going on, which is always very popular with the millennial crowd. We love the fat shaming, right? That's always a good way to draw sympathy for a big talented man who shouldn't be made to look like a jackass like Otis. Now, what else did we have? We had Sasha Banks getting pinned by Dana Brooke, and in the process causing the SmackDown Women's Champion to suffer a loss, as she was part of the team that lost tonight in that ridiculously booked triple threat women's tag match that meant absolutely nothing to anybody, which also had to be highlighted by an appearance from Alexa Bliss with her tag team partner Nikki Cross, because apparently this match is going to make them contenders for the Women's Tag Team Championship, because that makes sense. We all know making sense is not one of Vince McMahon's forte, but of course we had to see a champion lose on this night. We had to have Roman Reigns in the main event, which is the biggest sin that you could even think of, because I don't understand when the Universal Championship is there. You know, Bray Wyatt is not Brock Lesnar. He's there. You should be using him, and the centerpiece of SmackDown should be the Universal Championship and the 2 men going to war for that championship at the next pay-per-view being the Royal Rumble. But instead, it's more important that we know that Elias is going to be in the Royal Rumble because he's got to sing us a stupid song about it. We got to know that Roman Reigns is going to be in the Royal Rumble, and that he's got his intentions on getting the Universal Championship match at WrestleMania. These are all the things that Vince McMahon wants to hear. It's none of the things that any of us want to hear. This was absolutely ridiculous. Booking every single week the SmackDown show around King Corbin and Roman Reigns is the worst possible thing you can do. Then you got Braun Strowman on his quest for the Intercontinental Championship, and you put him in the ring tonight against Cesaro, which already is a mistake because you know Cesaro's going to lose. They're not going to make Braun Strowman lose on his way to the Intercontinental Championship, are they? Of course not. But I used to be one of the guys on YouTube and that covered wrestling that would tell you, hey, Cesaro could wrestle a mop. He could take a broomstick and go out there and have a great match. And he certainly didn't prove that tonight, because his match with Braun Strowman was horrendous. And that's not a slight against Cesaro. That just shows you how untalented Braun Strowman truly is. And the crowd didn't really give too much of a shit. I don't care about Braun Strowman anymore. He's a shadow of what he used to be. He's nothing but a joke, and I don't care. We had a revival segment which served to do nothing but embarrass and humiliate them once again. And I used to love the revival too. I loved the revival as a team in NXT. I loved their viewpoint on professional wrestling. I loved everything that they stood for. I loved how they wrestled in the ring. And then they come to the main roster. And then we come here to 2020. And the revival have become everything they used to be against. They're nothing but another version of the New Day. They're just a comedy act made to make you laugh, telling short jokes to Chad Gable, and then going out there and embarrassing themselves. Vince McMahon's fingerprints all over this show. It was horrendous to go through. We had the big returns tonight. We had the return of Sheamus, which was underwhelming. You had him come out. You made everybody think he was going to come out and bail out Chad Gable as he was getting attacked by the revival, only to have him turn around and attack Shorty G, which means we're going to have a battle between Sheamus and Shorty G going forward, because the big fella's going to clean up SmackDown from all the little men. He wants to tweet afterwards on Twitter, size matters. So what direction do you think Sheamus is going to be going? He's going to be coming out telling short jokes about Chad Gable for weeks and weeks to come. The biggest mistake as far as the returns go has to go with Jon Morrison. I'm a big Jon Morrison guy. I loved what he did in the WWE. I thought everywhere he went when he was in Lucha Underground, I thought he was fantastic. He was even one of the only reasons I used to tune in to Impact from time to time. Not always, but if Jon Morrison was going to have an interesting match against somebody, I was tuned in. I was a big fan of the Eminem tag team with Melina and Joey Mercury. I was a big fan of Jon Morrison when he was teamed with The Miz. Miz and Morrison, great team. But having Jon Morrison just pop up on SmackDown tonight, just peeking his head out the door because he's come to support The Miz out of nowhere, is epically bad. Epically bad. Only because you have the Royal Rumble 3 weeks away. 3 weeks? You couldn't hold your load for 3 weeks? The Royal Rumble exists, and one of its purposes is to have surprise returns. Now, we all kind of knew Jon Morrison signed, but nobody knew when he was coming back. And if his music hit during the Royal Rumble this year, it probably would have generated a hell of a stronger reaction than you got from him showing up on SmackDown tonight. And what did he have to say? He didn't say anything about why he's back. He didn't say anything about himself. All he had to say to Charlie 2.0, whatever her name is, Kathy Kelly, I think it is, was, oh, The Miz doesn't have anything to say to anybody tonight. And then he went back in the room and we wouldn't see Jon Morrison again tonight. What kind of a return is that? The Shaman of Sexy, former Intercontinental Champion, former Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion. It just is the same shit with the WWE. They don't even know what they got. And when they have something that could generate interest and could make a big splash in the world of professional wrestling and make their show seem interesting, they just flub it. They flub it. They do the bare minimum. We'll just show them tonight, just quick. It'll be like a teaser, because everybody already knows. So it doesn't matter if we surprise everybody at the Royal Rumble. You could have did the same thing with Sheamus. One of the best things you could have done was stop showing those ridiculous Aleister Black-style promos of Sheamus talking to nobody in the dark for the next couple of weeks, and then just have his music hit at the Rumble and have him come out. What purpose is he really serving in a feud with Chad Gable? Those two gentlemen are right now on a parallel path where they need to be built up. And one of the two is going to suffer as they go head to head. Chad Gable is going to be pushed down if he starts losing to Sheamus. Sheamus, upon his return, shouldn't be losing to a guy like Chad Gable, especially given everything he's been saying about why he's returning to clean up SmackDown. A lot of loopholes in this show. A lot of stupidness in this show. As usual, suck down. As always. But I didn't mind Mandy Rose and Otis's little interaction. I like the fact that they are kind of giving us the idea that Mandy Rose is kind of into Otis. And maybe she doesn't want to admit it to the world. Maybe there's something going on with her that she doesn't want to tell people about. She wants Dolph Ziggler to apologize to Otis for what he did. She seems very, very sad that Otis didn't want to really talk to her tonight. Otis was upset that his mama saw what happened to the ham and everything and all the stupidness we've been talking about. Them following it up with something like this, it makes it interesting. And you kind of want to root now for Otis to get Mandy Rose. And then you get onto the segment where Drew Gulak wants to come out and do his stupid PowerPoint presentations and start to just berate Otis, talk about how Mandy Rose would never want a woman like him. Does he not look out into the fucking crowd? You know what? I'm not the slimmest guy. I got some extra pounds on me. I'm over 200 pounds, and I have a beautiful wife that doesn't look that dissimilar from Mandy Rose. More often than not, women like the big guys. It's true. Some of you guys watching me right now can attest to that. You probably got a hot wife of your own, but you got a spare tire that don't bother her. That's a stupid thing. There are plenty of women like Mandy Rose that would definitely go for an Otis just based off of his charisma and how much fun he is. It's offensive. And it's ridiculous. It's childish. It's Vince McMahon. All over it. We're gonna call him a fat bastard without calling him a fat bastard. Why would a hot broad like Mandy Rose ever go out with a fat Thanksgiving turkey like Otis? Kevin Dunn, write it. Awful. Absolutely awful. And the involvement of Daniel Bryan with everybody. Daniel Bryan's feuding against everybody in the world. He's feuding with The Miz. He's feuding with Baron Corbin. He's feuding with Dolph Ziggler. He's going to be feuding with Roman Reigns now because even though they're the two biggest baby faces on the roster, they can't get along now because Roman wants the belt and Daniel wants the belt and they can't coexist. There's no story there. That just happened. Why wouldn't Roman be able to go out, handle his business, and worry about the Royal Rumble? Why is he going to be trepidatious about partnering with Daniel Bryan? Ridiculous. But one of the other things that I didn't mind was the third return on the night, which was the return of the Usos. It was great to see the Usos back. They look fantastic. They got haircuts. They came out to bail out their cousin. And now when this happened, you have to think that maybe some of the WWE creative is actually taking ideas from some of us here in the community, because there are many podcasters that I listen to, including myself, that have mentioned that one of the best things they could do to make Roman Reigns feel interesting, to make people give a shit about Roman Reigns, is to pair him back up with his real-life family, the Usos. They've gone ahead and done that, and somehow, even though they have done that, I'm not that excited about it. And the reason why I'm not excited about what's to come is because all we are going to see now is that Bobby Roode is going to return from his suspension, and we are going to get Roman and the Usos versus Baron Corbin and Ziggler and Rudolph. Ziggler and Rude, who we all affectionately call Rudolph. Do you want to see that? I'm so tired of seeing Roman Reigns with these three clowns. I was hoping that what happened between him and Baron Corbin was going to be finished. But like I was afraid, and like I told you guys on the TLC review, this is only just beginning. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. The closer Roman Reigns gets to his Universal Championship shot, Baron Corbin, as the king, is going to keep wanting to interject. They're trying to make this the biggest, most interesting feud in the WWE, and it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite. As we made mention of before, the main focus and the main drive of this show should be the Universal Championship, and it was the only real interesting thing that happened on this night. But the WWE is fucked up, man, because they do these things, right? Because they have to go to commercial, and they need to make the commercial breaks make sense, I guess. But all it does is infuriate me, because throughout the entirety of SmackDown, we are waiting for whatever it is the Fiend is going to say, maybe an episode of the Firefly Funhouse. We want to see this feud between him and Daniel Bryan be escalated. We want to see it moved forward and not just sitting in the same place week after week. But we don't get any of that. And we get Daniel Bryan booked in this main event tag team match as the partner of Roman Reigns, so that all the fans will be happy to see Roman Reigns because he's with Daniel Bryan, and they're going to go against a couple of the most hated guys on the roster. So obviously the fans will be on board. That's got to be the thinking here, because why else is Daniel Bryan in this match? And then we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and then the lights finally start to flicker, and the Fiend starts to laugh. And finally, you're perked up, right? If you were like me, you were like, all right, here we go. Something's going to happen. And they go to commercial. It was just a tease. They go to commercial, and it's Mind Games by the Fiend. We come back to the match, and then they do it again. The Fiend finally shows up. And what does the Fiend do? He doesn't do anything different. He does to Daniel Bryan the same thing he has done to everybody he has faced, mainly Seth Rollins, since he has started wrestling. And he shows up, the lights turn red, he applies the mandible claw, he screams and he laughs, and that's it. Then he disappears back into the darkness. Daniel Bryan was incapacitated. The referee didn't think to stop the match. No, that wasn't important. Ziggler and Corbin continue their attack on Roman Reigns, throwing him into the ring. They then get a set of handcuffs. Handcuff Roman Reigns to the ropes. Why is the ref letting any of this happen? Why hasn't he called for disqualification? This has easily gone longer than the 10 seconds he could have counted for a double team being involved in a tag team matchup. They're breaking the rules, but that doesn't matter. The match, I guess, was called off, although it wasn't called off. And this real lack of structure in the finish also has the thumbprint of Vinnie Mac on it. A Vinnie Mac production done to stellar perfection. No real finality in the match. And we had the Usos come out and make the save before Baron Corbin was able to pour the dog food on Roman Reigns once again. So where is this leading? All I want is for it to get past Baron Corbin. Once Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin are separated from stories, including one another, and they want to continue with Roman and the Usos doing some sort of a Samoan faction, I don't even care if they bring in Tamina, because it's at least real-life family, and maybe she'll actually be interesting for once, and she doesn't have to wrestle. She could just be outside with support, being a manager, whatever it is. I won't even care if they do that. It'll be different. It'll be interesting. The Usos are two of the best tag team wrestlers in the world. If they don't take the tag team division and put it on their back right now in order to make it a little bit more serious, then they truly are lost and will never fix this company. That is the most glaring example of what they need to do to fix the tag team division. They have one of the best tag teams ever in the history of the company, and keep them away from the New Day. I don't want to start seeing them in the New Day over and over again. Write something serious, get your shit together, get your tag team division together. You have the team capable to do it. Start building other teams with the intentions of facing them against the Usos. And maybe wrestling, or tag team wrestling at least, could get a little bit better in 2020. If they start now, maybe by the end of the decade we'll get there. Who the hell knows? Let's talk about the card up and down. Those are my general thoughts. We'll delve a little bit deeper into a couple of other things. The show got started tonight with Daniel Bryan and The Miz in the back. Once again, Daniel Bryan and The Miz are both feuding with everybody for some reason. Daniel Bryan has his sights set on the Universal Champion. He knows he's going to face Bray Wyatt as The Fiend at the Royal Rumble. The Miz wants him to win. Surprise, surprise. The Miz is still all messed up because of the way Bray Wyatt home invasioned him and got near his little daughter, which would mess me up as well. But, I mean, The Miz is really taking this hard. Like, I thought this all was finalized. The Miz went for his revenge. He lost. It's over. And now it's Daniel Bryan's turn. But now he's, like, playing weird cheerleader for Daniel Bryan. You beat him for us, beat him for the universe, beat him for everybody. And then he's got some sort of plans of his own in store for vengeance on Bray Wyatt, I guess. But I don't know. It seemed as if The Miz is slowly making that turn back to the psychotic and vicious heel Miz, I guess. But to me, he never really turned babyface. He was just always cocky and arrogant and always kind of came off to me as The Miz. So if he's going to ramp up his intensity and ramp up his crazy, maybe it'll be interesting to see The Miz again. The problem with The Miz tonight is that they already stuck him with Jon Morrison. But it's not even so much the pairing of them together, it was the very underwhelming way that they brought Jon Morrison back to the WWE tonight. What an epic failure. What an epic failure. We had Sasha and Bayley come out talking about being locker room leaders. Why is that a thing? Why is being a locker room leader a thing? Why is that something that all of a sudden people are fighting over? Well, we're going to be the locker room leaders. Well, Bayley's the champion. Doesn't that make you the locker room leader by default? This whole promo just led to Lacey Evans coming out with Dana Brooke in tow. And bam, bam, I don't give a damn about anything that this blue hat bitch is saying. Bam, bam, she's Dana Brooke's girl. And that's even worse. Bam, bam, bam. I don't care. I don't care. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of watching Charlotte when Charlotte first came up and then all of a sudden they decided to put the human sausage next to Charlotte Flair. It reminds me of that exact same thing because Lacey Evans is just another version of Charlotte Flair. And now she's got the woman's right and she's going to be a babyface because, bam, bam, because we said so. But no real reason or logic behind it. It's just happening to happen. And then Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross want to come out. They want to claim that they want to prove that they deserve a rematch for their Women's Tag Team Champions and that winning this matchup is going to do that. They were not going to go on to win this matchup. They did not prove anything to me except for the fact that I still don't want to see this team anymore. It's another one of these ridiculously thrown together teams that they're sticking with basically because they don't know what else to do. And it's probably just their way of shutting Alexa Bliss up because they're not going to put her in the championship runs right now because they got other plans going on there. So we'll pacify her and her biscuit buns with a World Tag Team Championship reign again. Not that they're doing much with Asuka and Kairi Sane right now, with Kairi Sane being injured. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what the hell they're doing. The biggest surprise of SmackDown every single week was not, and especially this week, it wasn't the 3 new faces, it was the fact that they still don't know what the hell to do. So now they're just stacking the roster with more talent that are just going to get lost in the shuffle. So what good is having all these guys back at the end of the day, really? Dana Brooke executed a swanton bomb to get the pinfall on Sasha Banks. And while getting the pinfall on Sasha Banks is awful enough, this swanton bomb was terrible. She landed like a ton of bricks, and I would be shocked if she at the very least didn't wind Sasha. At the very least. It was very awfully executed. The whole tag team matchup was very slowly paced, very sloppy, a lot of telegraphing of the maneuvers. One of the more surprising stories about this matchup is Alexa Bliss actually kind of wrestled more than I think I've ever seen her wrestle. Not that she wrestled that much, but what she did do, I was actually, oh shit, I'm looking at Alexa Bliss work here right now. Might have only been 2 or 3 minutes worth of the match, but I was surprised by it. That's how little we really see of her wrestling. Not that I was overly impressed at it, it just took me by surprise. Wow, Bliss is wrestling. For once. Not that it made the match that much better. This was a useless, meaningless tag team match that got a meaningless win for Lacey Evans and Dana Brooke over Sasha Banks and the Women's Champion. Why? How is this furthering their cause towards a matchup between the two? Why does Sasha Banks have to be involved in everything that Bayley has done? Why can't they be best friends and still be a duo, but Sasha be fighting in this direction and Bayley be fighting this girl in this direction and never the twain shall meet when the in-ring stuff is happening? Why can't we do things like that? Why does everybody always have to be connected all the time? Whenever you see one, you'll see the other. This one will get to say her piece. That one will get to say her piece. This one will do her moves. That one will do her moves. But then they'll lose to a team that makes no sense. Awful. This was a very boring matchup. They wanted to talk about Dolph Ziggler hitting on Mandy Rose and stepping on the cake Otis's mother gave to Mandy Rose last week. Mandy Rose approached Otis in the back as he was curling a giant keg of beer. And he looked really, really sad. He looked so down that I just looked at the guy knowing what happened. And I'm like, man, he's a good actor because I feel bad for this guy right now. He's really selling the sadness. And if somebody like Mandy Rose did something like that to me, not that Mandy Rose did anything, but if I were, let's just say, if I were in the same situation as Otis, I think I would be pretty upset as well. His mama made that cake. All right? Now, we didn't give a shit about the cake last week, but I guess we're going to continue to make that a focal point of this romance. But I'm more interested in how it's going to all play out between the competitors, not the choice of food that we are going to use this week. She tried to apologize, but then Tucky showed up. He told Otis to keep his head in the game, focus up. We got a match. Looked at Mandy Rose with the stink eye, and then Heavy Machinery would walk on out. We had The Miz walking backstage where he would run into Kofi Kingston. Kofi Kingston and Big E are happy to celebrate the new year. Big E's watching balls dropping somewhere. He doesn't even really remember what he was seeing, but that's another story for some other podcast because I ain't going to touch that with a 10-meter cattle prod. So this whole segment was to try to, I guess, further the turn of Miz and to make him go more heel. Because there was no real reason for this confrontation. Kofi Kingston and Big E were actually being pretty supportive. They're just trying to make The Miz feel better because they know how bad his last couple of weeks have been. And The Miz didn't take it the right way. He took offense to the fact that they are making his situation about how many championships he has held and not about the fact that the Fiend was in his home and attacking his family, so to speak. So he took personal offense to that. And now, because of that, we are going to have a match. Kofi Kingston versus The Miz tonight on SmackDown. Is that really grounds for a matchup? Really? And this is just another match that I don't understand. Why we are seeing it, why it's happening. Didn't really do much for me, to be honest with you. The booking of the match or the match itself. Then we had the Elias song, where he wanted to make fun of guys like Sami Zayn. He wanted to mention Shane McMahon's name, and the mere mention of Shane McMahon's name makes me start to sweat as much as Shane McMahon used to sweat on SmackDown, because I don't want to see that man anywhere near my screens right now. Keep him off. Don't even tease it. He wanted to make fun of the Revival again. He wanted to make fun of Dolph Ziggler and King Corbin. And then he wants to promise to win the Royal Rumble. I hate it, man. Everybody, I'm going to be in the Royal Rumble. I'm going to win. You ain't going to win shit. You know, everybody's like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win it all. Go with it. I'm going to go in the Royal Rumble and I'm going to do my best to win it all. You don't just proclaim you're going to fucking win. I know self-confidence is like a thing that you should have, but I mean, come on. If all 30 competitors claim they're going to win, and that's the only line they're going to say, like, and not embellish more, why do you want to win? What is it about this year's Royal Rumble that is going to make you any different from when you wrestled in it last year? I don't understand. Make me understand, please. Shorty G defeats Dash Wilder. Who cares? After this, the Revival would beat up Shorty G, which would bring Sheamus out from the back, as we already touched upon. Sheamus entered the ring as the Revival tucked tail and ran. He gave the brogue kick to Chad Gable, and that was the end of that segment. Kofi Kingston would come out for his matchup. He would end up defeating The Miz in this match, furthering the frustration of The Miz, pushing him more down the heel side of things, which is also what made The Miz kind of snap. After the match, he started screaming at the fans. He was furious that the fans would yell, "You suck," at him. I don't know why the fans were yelling at him, "You suck." I mean, why wouldn't you be on the side of The Miz in this situation? I don't know. Maybe you're a heartless fucking jerk. You tell me. But in any case, the crowd got on The Miz. The Miz got back at the fans. And then he would go to the back. We wouldn't see him anymore. There would be the interview with Roman Reigns and Daniel Bryan. And I don't know how Roman Reigns can't cut a promo. He's been there for so long that at the very least he should be able to cut a promo. Now, I know that I'm not going to really get down on him too much because he was probably handed his lines about 2 minutes before he had to go out there and deliver him, knowing the WWE creative's modus operandi. But you still have to have delivery. You can't just be so auto-tone and have awkward pauses and not really get your point across. Just came off as scripted, as unenthusiastic, not authentic in the least. Daniel Bryan had 100 times more charisma in the very same segment. The only thing that stood out to me was how terrible Roman was at delivering his lines here. And I just don't understand. I don't understand it. How you could be that inept at doing the most basic of wrestling skills. And if it's the fault of creative for not giving him enough time to memorize his lines when you know he's a guy that needs time to memorize his lines, then it's their fault. But either way, it's one of the segments on this night that deserves a big old fat poop hammer. And you know it. Just like majority of this show, if we're truly being honest. Otis, with Tucker by his side, defeated Drew Gulak after Drew Gulak tried to make an ass out of Tucker. Dolph Ziggler joined them at ringside. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville was watching on the back. Oh, I'm sorry. Mandy and Sonya were watching the monitor on the back. Dolph Ziggler joined them watching on the monitor in the back. I misread my notes here. Mandy Rose was urging Dolph Ziggler to apologize to Otis, but then they would cut back to the match, which was dominated by Otis from start to finish. He would win with his little Caterpillar Vader Bomb combination, and that would be that. Braun Strowman defeated Cesaro. We already touched upon this. This was an awful match. Cesaro just wasted here, sacrificed to Braun Strowman to make him look more devastating. After the match, Shinsuke Nakamura would sneak attack Braun Strowman and take him down with one Kinshasa. And now we move on to next week where we will probably see something very similar. And why they didn't bring Sheamus back and pair him with Cesaro and bring back the Bar when the tag team division needs legitimate tag teams, they're very sorely needed, and instead you want to have this awkward pairing with Cesaro and Nakamura, which doesn't mean much because Nakamura is the Intercontinental Champion. Bring Sheamus into the whole fold. Have Sammy being the manager of the Bar because he wants to set the bar for wrestling. And Shinsuke Nakamura is now the Bar of the Intercontinental Championships. I don't know. Do something different. Let the guys be creative. Stop scripting such ridiculous garbage that just doesn't get over. Then we had the main event. Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns versus King Corbin and Dolph Ziggler. I barely paid attention because I was only waiting to see what was going to develop with the Fiend, because you knew he was going to show up before we got to the 10 o'clock hour and the end of the show. And sure, he didn't disappoint. He showed up, but he did the same old thing that the Fiend always does. This intense rivalry with Daniel Bryan doesn't have him any more fired up to try to torture Daniel Bryan in any sort of new and twisted, sadistic sort of way. He didn't bring out a sledgehammer. He didn't threaten anybody. Roman Reigns didn't give a shit about his partner. He was out there. He seen the lights go out. Daniel Bryan was being taken apart by the Fiend. He had the mandible claw locked in, and Roman Reigns wants to fight the Fiend for the championship if he still has it at WrestleMania this coming March or April, whatever it is. But he doesn't want to step in and help out Daniel Bryan. He doesn't want to fight or come anywhere near the Fiend, apparently. But then the Fiend disappears, the lights go up, and now Roman Reigns comes around to check his partner, and all he got was his ass beat for it, which prompted the Usos to come out, saving Roman Reigns from another face full of Alpo, and SmackDown would go off the air with the Usos releasing Roman from the handcuffs. And now we go on to probably the first six-man tag of the year, which will probably be coming at us next week. I'm not sure when Bobby Roode's coming back. It's quite possible next week we will have the Usos versus Corbin and Ziggler, with Roman Reigns not being a part of the match, but will end up coming out at the end, as always. It'll probably be the main event, because anything Roman's involved in is more important than any championship. And that's just another thing that just absolutely boggles my mind. Things that involve Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin, Braun Strowman, all they really make me want to do is change the channel. And the last thing that I want to make mention of is that while they were wrestling, Michael Cole, who was an absolute jackass tonight, and I don't really pay attention to him for the most part. I usually tune him out, so there was a lot of tonight that I didn't really hear. I've seen a lot of people getting at him on social media, but I try not to listen to him. But in this one moment during the main event, he wanted to talk about how Dolph Ziggler just faced Roman Reigns at New Year's Eve with Steve Harvey on Fox 5 this past New Year's Eve, which I hope you guys didn't watch. I certainly didn't watch it because I didn't give a shit about it. And he said that Dolph Ziggler, he said this was a bucket list moment for him. And this is how stupid WWE writing is. They don't even know what a bucket list is. In order for you to have a bucket list, it means that you want to accomplish a certain amount of things. And these certain things that you want to accomplish are, things that maybe other people have done for the most part. Things that are famous or monuments and, the 7 wonders of the world. Things like that. You knock it off the bucket list. You want to have a threesome with 2 hot broads. You want to go see Stonehenge. These are things that probably happened for other people. There's never been a wrestling match on a New Year's Eve show. So how is that a bucket list? When has he ever seen anybody wrestle on New Year's Eve in Times Square before? How is that a bucket list moment for Dolph Ziggler? It leaves you questioning just what the hell they are talking about for the most part. Why do they write this ridiculous stuff that is absolutely meaningless? What does that mean to any of us, even if that was the truth? Why do we give a shit? Dolph Ziggler's not the good guy. We shouldn't care about what his bucket list is and that he got to check off an imaginary bucket list. The fuck out of here. And that was SmackDown Live, the first SmackDown Live of the new year, the first offering under the WWE banner for the new decade, and it was much more of the same old shit. A one-way ticket on the SmackDown train to Sucktown, just like we are used to riding every single Friday night. You would have had a much better time if you would have tuned into this channel and checked out our most important wrestlers of the decade list. The newest installment went up just yesterday, featuring Le Champion, Chris Jericho, with other episodes highlighting superstars like Ronda Rousey, Triple H, and also AEW's co-founder Cody Rhodes, with a couple of more in the pipeline coming down your way. So make sure that you are subscribed to this channel if you had a great time tonight and you enjoyed yourself and I made you laugh or I made you cry or I made you understand why a SmackDown that you might have thought was great was actually not. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss anything we got firing at you, including those most important wrestlers of the moment little shorts that we've been putting on, and everything else that we bring the hammer down on, including AEW, Raw, and NXT. Reviews will be coming back to the channel on a much more regular basis. It's so hard to bring the hammer down on NXT since they are the premier brand of all the brands in sports entertainment, but we're going to do our best since a lot of you guys keep requesting that, and we want to keep the traffic going. It helps the channel continue to grow, just like you can help the channel continue to grow by hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like button, and then sharing this video with each and every one of your wrestling buddies all over the wrestling world. Another way you can support the channel is by picking up your t-shirts, which are still available. I have been notified by Bonfire that our campaign is still live and will continue to be live for a short while. So if you have thought you missed your opportunity to pick up one of the 2 most awesome t-shirts in the YouTube community, now is your chance to do so. Bonfire.com/store/Sledgehammer-TV. The Sledgehammer TV logo t-shirts available in 5 different colors, and the Poop Hammer, the most lethal weapon in all the professional wrestling review shows, available now. Grab yours today, and if you are one of the many members of the Sledgehead Army that has already picked up one of these 2 t-shirts, please hit me up on Twitter or on the Facebook page or even in the comments section, and you can, and send us some pictures of you wearing our stuff so that we could feature you guys right here on your favorite wrestling show, that you were so awesome to purchase merchandise from. I want to give you guys proper shout outs, so make sure you guys get at me with some pictures and some photos of you enjoying yourself in your Sledgehammer TV gear. And if you can't support the show in that way, that's totally understandable. You could also leave a round of applause. Maybe just leave a little tip. As I've been told that all you have to do is donate a certain amount. I wasn't sure how the applause button really works, but if you want to give me a little tip of some sort because I made you have a good time and I made you appreciate SmackDown a lot more than the actual episode did, hit that round of applause. Let's see what happens when you do together, because it still hasn't happened and I don't know what happens when you do, but it'll be interesting to find out, and we will find out together. You can feel free to do that as well. It is not necessary. It is always up to you, and whether or not you do that, my real appreciation is just for you guys being here at all. Thank you guys always for being with me. 2019 was a great year. We had a lot of great growth, but now 2020 is here, and we want to make this the new year of the hammer and the decade of the sledgehammer, and we need you to do just that. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and come back for more of the best professional wrestling analysis that you will find, brought to you with a whole lot of piss and vinegar and a whole lot of comedy thrown in between. Thank you guys all so very much for being here. My name is Nick Nightmare. This is the team Thor the Sledgehammer, the official Sledgehammer of the Sledgehammer Wrestling Show. His tag team partner, the World Heavyweight Champion of all the microphones in all the world, Mr. Blue the Snowball. The most important member of the team, as always, is each and every one of you. That, my friends, is going to do it. We are out of here, and we will see you next time right here on your new favorite wrestling show for 2020 and beyond. The Sledgehammer Wrestling Show, only on Sledgehammer TV, right here on YouTube.com. Boom.